How's it going, everyone? Welcome back to our Aqua sample pack breakdown. This is episode 5, and in this episode, we're going to go over the synth and bass one-shots and loops. So all of this melodic and harmonic content, the concepts behind the melodies, the harmonies, the plucks, all of this stuff stems from my music theory toolbox. What I mean by that is I worked in 4 different scales, 4 different modes. You might think of them differently than the other way. Music theory is a bit of a conceptualized topic, lots of different ways to think about it. Now, I'm not going to go too far into music theory, as I believe that would be a great separate episode, but I will briefly discuss the modes that I worked in. Now, these modes, these scales were the minor mode, Mixolydian, Dorian, and Phrygian. So for those of you that might not know, the differences between these scales are they're all built off of the major scale, and then they have intervals in them, different notes that are flatted differently. So let's think about it like this. In Western music, we have 8 notes that makes up a scale. These modes all have different flatted versions of those 8 notes. So in major, we don't have any flats at all. Now, in Mixolydian, to start, we have a flatted 7th degree. In Dorian, we have a flatted 3rd as well as that flatted 7th from the Mixolydian. Further down the list, we have minor, which is flatted 3rd, flatted 6th, and flatted 7. So we're getting a little bit darker now. And Phrygian, which is very dark, with a flatted 2, a flatted 3, flatted 6, and that flatted 7. So we're just flatting more intervals as we go down the list, and with every flat the mood gets darker. So the way that I explained it was it went from lightest to darkest. Major, of course, is considerably the happiest scale. Mixolydian, a little less happy but still happy. Dorian is a little bit darker, but there's a hopeful quality to it. This is personally my favorite scale. And then we have the minor scale, which is the basis for the darker sounding music, moodier music in general. And then finally, we have the Phrygian scale, which is considerably the darkest in the scales that we used for this pack. And that was on purpose. I didn't want to be too dark or too sinister or anything like that. It would just take away from the purpose of the pack. And of course, in this case, this pack is heavily conceptualized. So making sure that we're in the realm of what makes sense to the concept is massively, massively important. Before I get into creating some one-shots and loops, I want to show you the loops and one-shots you can find in the pack itself, just to give you an idea of what we're working with. All right, so let's get into it. Let's head on over to our loops and one-shots. Let's go into loops, synths, let's go to leads, and I'm thinking something that's 150 BPM. Cool, so that's a pretty good idea of what we can find in the pack as far as leads go. Got some different moods going on, things that are a little bit more upbeat, things that are a little bit more moody, and some floaty and airy sounds. Cool, so let's go check out the pads. So we're over here in the 150 pads. Let's go ahead and check these out. Let's check these out. So again, just some different moods going on. Now let's go check out the plucks. So again, different motifs, some more moods, all kinds of different things. I wanted to give a lot of creative freedom to the user, so I created around a lot of different relevant motifs and styles. So over here in the Synths folder, we have a bit of a grab bag of different styles and sounds. So that one might be really helpful for layering under a stack of chords. That could be a cool pluck background element, but it also could work well as a forefront element as well. some more intensity with that one. Cool, so those are the 4 different types of synth loops. So we're over here in the bass loops folder, and we're going to check out some loops at 150 BPM. So we have a number of different things going on there. We have some distorted bass layers, some rhythmic stuff as well for some beats that maybe need a little bit of extra rhythm or just some groove. So those are the bass loops. So now let's go over to the synth and bass one-shots. So over here in the synths, just gonna play a couple one-shots. And that covers it for the synth one-shots. Now let's go over to the bass one-shots. I also bounced all of these bass one-shots in C just to make it easier for the user to. So that covers the loops and one-shots for our synths and basses. Now I'm going to show you how I made these sounds with a few different approaches and things in mind. I do want to mention that the most important thing behind these melodies and the harmonic motifs and chords and all this stuff was I had to keep in mind the aesthetic of this pack with water and all of that has a moody atmosphere about it, some mysteriousness, a lot of different moods, darker moods going on. So different motifs, different moods. However, we're still retaining a sonic characteristic. I'm going to hop on over to the MIDI folder in the pack itself and pull some MIDI files out to show you exactly the motifs and playing performances that I did to create the loops and one-shots, the samples in the pack itself. Let's go ahead and grab this one out of the MIDI folder, see what this one sounds like. Cool, so we've got an F minor melody here, and the way we can tell is we have an F, we have the F going to the G, and then the G going to the G sharp. Play with the preset itself as I was recording just to find something that sounds cool in context with the key. In this case, we had an F minor loop going on, and it was purposefully moody to fit that Future Garage ambiance, darker feel. Very, very moody. So now let's hop on over to the pad MIDI, and let's go ahead and grab another 130 MIDI. And this one's also in F minor. So again, pretty moody chord progression going on there, just setting the mood for moody music. So that was the direction for a lot of these pads, which was to create progressions that again are hopeful or pensive, so kind of on the spectrum of dark and light, happier and moodier, going back and forth between different moods just to give a lot of flexibility. Cool, so now let's go check out the plucks. Let's go ahead and grab the F sharp. So that sounds kind of funny. Let's go ahead and add some release and detune. So again, it's all about setting the mood. That's a lot of the performance thinking behind creating the pluck sounds, just some rhythmic as well as melodic context to throw in just to create more atmosphere and add to the relevant moods that are going on in the track. So finally, let's move on over to the bass layerables. Let's go ahead and grab something at random. Let's grab Drench. Just like a simple layerable pad under some chords. As a matter of fact, I will show you right now, this is exactly what I did when I was creating these bass pads and the rhythmic ones as well too. I just dropped in the chord progression. So for example, this one from the pad, take away all the top stuff, leave the root note, drop it down a little bit, and this is what we have. In context with the pad as well. It just fits nicely and keeps everything cohesive. Same goes for the bass rhythmic stuff. So I'm just going to show you, let's do the same thing. Let's drop this down. And let's play this and see what we got. Now we'll play the bass and the pad together. So just very, very simple stuff. These bass sounds were meant to complement the melodic and harmonic stuff that's going on in the pack. I didn't want to make anything that's going to take away too much from the point of the melodic and harmonic nature of this pack. The only thing that I would consider though, however, is in the sound design phase when making these pads and basses, especially if you're doing songwriting or in the sound design phase of your song, getting a tone that's relative or in the same ballpark as the pad. So that right there is pretty cool. Just a simple consideration to have, especially if you're building your own sample library or your own sample pack. Having things that work well together, it might happen subconsciously with what you hear and what you perceive as an artist, but keeping everything cohesive will not only make a sonic print for yourself, but it'll also just make the drag and dropping process a whole lot easier when you're making a sample pack. So now let's go over to the bass kick layer. I didn't make any MIDIs for that, so what we'll do is grab the kick that we made earlier in the 4th episode talking about drums. And what we'll do now is we'll make a quick little rhythm. All right, so now we have our kick rhythm. Let's go ahead and plug something in. So those are the bass kick layers, nothing super crazy or complex. Just thought it was a really cool opportunity to make some sounds for the pack user to put under their kick drums as an 808 style sound, just to add some more beef and interest to their kicks. Cool, so now that we've covered the synth and bass loops, let's talk a little bit about the one-shots. And really with the one-shots, there's only one thing that I want to talk about in particular that's going to be unique from the rest of what we just covered. And that is creating some reverse melodic and harmonic effects. So let's talk about the plucks and creating a chord and then reversing it. So let's play a chord. Let's go ahead and plug that in. So something really simple, just a G sharp minor chord. Cool, now let's go ahead and reverse it. Drag this out, and here's what we have. Cool, so just a really simple, easy way to add some extra ear candy and some melodic and harmonic interest, as well as transition into new sections of a song. Of course, this pack is built with atmosphere and flow in mind, and having some reverse effects that are in the same ballpark harmonically and melodically of what we're doing are just adding to that more and making everything sound really, really cool. Not much production goes into this, and that's really great because we can just make a whole bunch of these and have a ton of tools to work with. So that covers it for the synth and bass one-shots and loops. I talked more about the loops in this video as I felt they were more important to cover, since a lot of the theory and thinking behind the sounds in this pack are deep in the loops themselves. There's more to explain with those, so I felt those were more important. However, in the one-shots, we talked about the reverse chord effects with the plucks, which are equally as important as adding some harmonic and melodic interest and ear candy in your track, and helps us have a cohesive and usable collection of sounds. So anyway, that covers it for this video. In the next video, we're going to talk about effects creation. We're going to go over finalizing some uplifters and downlifters using automation. And then we're going to talk about transitional effects using Synth. And then we're going to wrap up making glitch sounds using Glitch Machines plugins such as Fracture and Hysteresis, both of which I covered earlier. And then we're also going to talk briefly about Buff Eater, which is an amazing Reactor 6 ensemble. A lot of fun stuff here at the end, so stick around and we'll see you in the next episode. Hey guys, welcome back. This is episode 6 of our Aqua sample pack breakdown series. In this episode, we're going to talk about effects. So we're first going to cover uplifters and downlifters, and we're going to create some new ones using the presets that we made earlier, and then we're also going to do some automation with them so that we can get some really cool results that we'll print and use later on. Then we're going to talk about glitch effects, and to create the glitch effects, we're going to take a Foley sample from the pack itself and throw some glitch plugins and effects on it as well. Those effects are going to be covered by Glitch Machines Fracture and Hysteresis, and then also the Reactor Ensemble Buff Eater, which are all great pieces of software. Finally, we're going to wrap up with a quick little demo of how to make some transitional effects using Synth, and the source material for that will be a glitch one-shot from the pack itself. Cool, so let's go ahead and start working on our uplifter and downlifter. So I'm going to go ahead and open up the automation here for our uplifter, which sounds like this. Got the rising effect going. Not entirely interesting though, so let's go ahead and get some automation going. Here in Logic, we're going to go to this serum automation, and we're going to choose macro 1, and we're just going to make a ramp and put it all the way up, because as the riser rises, we want as much intensity and effects building up with it. And let's move on to macro 2 and do the same thing for that, just all the way up. And macro 3, same thing, turn that up all the way. So let's go to macro 4 now, and we're going to go all the way. Cool, now let's see what it sounds like. Definitely a little bit more interesting. Let's go ahead and take a look at what's going on. So the first macro is affecting the hyperdimension, so we're getting some more stereo and chorusing going on at the end. The second one is affecting the flanger, so we're getting some frequency shifting, phasing, and the traditional flanging effect. And we're also getting some reverb and delay automation going on. I think I'm going to turn the delay down a little bit because it's starting to get a little noisy, and I only want it to be at the very end of the sound where the reverb really kicks in. And that's pretty cool. So with that in place, let's go ahead and bounce that. And I want to show you a cool little trick. And I'm going to go ahead and reverse this file. And let's put this here and let's take a listen. So as you can tell, just like a downlifter, really easy tool for quickly making downlifters that are not only just the same as the uplifter and retains continuity, but also just a really efficient way of creating downlifters to reach to. Let's see what these sound like together. So with the exception of a little pop at the beginning of the audio file, which we can get rid of with a fade and fix, keeps same thing going, keeps the same tone, great for continuity. Now let's move on to the downlifters. So here's our downlifter preset so far. Pretty simple sound. As a matter of fact, we can drop this down to about right there. Yeah, that sounds a bit nicer with the exception of that little glitch at the end. So what we can do now is we can also turn the automation here. Let's try this. So what we can do here is, I like the way it sounds without any real macro stuff going on. So I'm gonna do the same thing here and just quickly reverse it, and we should have a very quick and easy riser. Very simple, very effective. Very easy way to get some downlifters and uplifters out of each other. Cool, so let's head on over to the glitch effects now. And what I've done is I've pulled a Foley one shot from the sample pack itself just to see what it sounds like. The reason I chose this one is because there's some noise on the top, but then also there's a lot of percussiveness going on, and percussiveness yields the greatest glitch results. So I'm going to start with Buff Eater, which is a Reactor 6 ensemble. Great little tool. Highly recommend it. And I'm going to default this. Now let's start playing around with the different parameters. So right away, super intuitive. Very nice starting point. That one's kind of cool. Cool, so now I've got enough interest and randomness going on. Let's go ahead and bounce this. And what we can do now is we can go through this and pick some cool moments. Yeah, so something right there sounds pretty neat. Now let's go ahead and grab this all out, delete the rest. So what we can do now is we can further the glitchiness by adding fracture and hysteresis. Let's start by adding fracture and see what happens. Let's just throw on a random preset. That's pretty cool. I like all the weird stuff going on there. And now we're working in hysteresis. Let's throw a little bit on here too. Yeah, I like that a lot. Let's go ahead and render that. And let's now add some OTT just to bring things up to level. So with very minimal effort, we've gotten some pretty great results. I'm also going to throw a pitch on this too, because I think that sound is a little harsh on top. So let's drop it down a few semitones. That sounds cool. So let's go ahead and bounce that. Bring it up to level a little bit more. And maybe add a little bit of realism with some reverb. Cool. So again, very simple, very minimal effort for some great results. And this is entirely how I made the glitch effects in the pack itself. So now that we've got the glitch effects out of the way, let's start making a transitional effect. And this was definitely the most experimental part of this pack. I never really used Absynth before, and I dove into it kind of head first. I found that you can get some really insane results very easily as well. So here in Absynth, let's go to Browser. And we have a whole bunch of different effects that we can throw on the sound. So these are a few presets here, and I find these presets are extremely high quality and usable. For example, let's go to, I think the Clouded Combs is pretty cool. So right away, really cool sound. And let's put a limiter so we don't clip. Let's just go through here a little bit more and see if we can get something a little bit weirder. I like that one a lot. Let's do that. It's got that sort of transitional thing going on. So we're going to go ahead and bounce that, bring it out a little bit, and let's add a little bit of reverb for some more realism. Let's pitch shift this a little bit. I like where it was at 2. Let's render that one more time. And let's go ahead and throw Absynth on there again for one more round of effects, see if we can take this further. That's really interesting. In Absynth, we can also hit this button Mutate down here, which is an amazing little hidden gem in Absynth. Basically what it does is it mutates the parameters that are specific to each preset we have here and just randomizes them. Great tool for getting multiple iterations of something. It does get kind of quiet. So what we can do is you can just choose one of these. And what we can do to make it a little bit more dynamic and not noisy is add a little fade. I think the sound cuts out around right here, all the way at the end. So right about there, we'll leave it right there. And of course we can pitch it again. And let's add a little ensemble. Softens things up a little bit, makes it weirder and warblier, if that's even a word. So let's go ahead and bounce that. We can bring it up a little bit more by adding OTT again. And then soften up the stuff going on in the upper mids. Maybe about right there. Get rid of all that stuff. So now you might be thinking, okay, what does this have to do with water and chill stuff? Well, here's the thing. These sounds are moving a whole lot. And again, I wanted to keep that cohesion of flow and water flowing and ever changing. And I think that's relevant with the glitch sounds from a creative aspect and from a technical aspect as well. I feel these sounds are very useful for going in between sections. And if we're keeping the sounds the same and having the same sort of approach, keeping the aesthetic in the back of our minds, it's going to sound very similar and natural. So one more time, I'm going to play this and that'll be pretty much it and we'll wrap it up. Cool. Great, easy way to get some awesome effect sounds for your music, for your sound design sessions, whatever you're working on. These are some really cool ways to get some interesting sounds. And these are exactly the approaches that I took to get to the sounds in the pack itself. That's pretty much it for all this stuff. This episode has been about up and down effects, easy ways to achieve those using reverses and automation. We talked about glitch effects using Glitch Machines plugins such as Hysteresis and Fracture. We also used Buff Eater, which is an amazing reactor ensemble. And then we also talked about transitional effects using Synth and having some great source material to work with at the beginning. It's been a ton of fun so far. I hope you guys have been learning a lot of stuff. I hope it's been insightful, inspiring in some way. If so, if you have any comments, any questions, anything at all, please reach out. I'd love to hear from you guys. All right, we're at the end. I'll see you guys in the next video. How's it going, guys? Welcome to our final installment of the Aqua Sample Pack Breakdown series. In this video, we're going to talk about some bonus content. Number one, we're going to talk about bonus folders in sample packs and why I included a bonus folder. For those of you that are creating sample packs, adding a bonus folder to your packs is a really great way to just add an extra little bit of care and love to the pack itself and to the producers that are picking up your stuff. I like to do it just because it's a fun way to get out of my mind a little bit and add extra little things to dive in and use some little Easter eggs. I'm going to show you the bonus folder that I have in Aqua, and then I am going to drop in a couple samples in Contact and show you the way that I import samples into a sampler and the cool creative things that you can do with that. Finally, we'll wrap up with some final thoughts. So I'm going to go over here to our bonus folder. Now here in bonus, we have a MIDI folder with various bass and synth MIDI at various BPMs. We have a sampler instruments folder for EXS24, which was and is Logic's sampler. And then we also have a folder for Contact 5. In this folder, we have Serum presets. And then back here in the bonus folder, we have one last folder, which is the wavetables. And these are the different Aqua wavetables that I created when importing those original Foley samples. So just some extra content for the producers. So here I have Contact 5 opened up with one of the sampler instruments from the pack itself loaded in. This is a full drum loop at 150 BPM. So just a really cool way to easily access a bank of sounds and have creativity continue to flow. Now I'm going to create a new Contact 5 instance. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you adding in a loop. So let's go to full drums, just drag in one of these and let's see what happens. So really pitched down, just kind of like a sampler. It's really cool. So in Contact, we have different types of import modes. We have Tone Machine, which is kind of granular. You can do some really trippy stuff with that. Let's see, what else is there? So you can get some really cool extra little layers to throw into your drums. Some cool intro effects, all kinds of cool different effects just by messing with the different import modes and just play around. You're going to get some really cool tones and interesting effects just by turning knobs, trying things out that you're not used to, all these cool experimental processes. So not only are you making your life easier by making a great bank of sounds to reach for by doing this, but on the sample pack end, you're creating a really interesting, really accessible experience for the user and for the people that check out your packs. That's my ethos every time I'm making these packs, is I want to have enough versatility for myself when I'm creating stuff, but then also for the user so that they can dive in and have as much fun as possible right out the gate. So on that note, that covers it. That is everything from the initial thought process and conceptualization phase that I had before recording the Foley. From there, I recorded the Foley in different environments and with different thought processes behind each recording. And then I took the Foley recordings after mastering and editing them, plopped them into Serum, created some awesome wavetables, which then went on to become great presets. And then from there, took the presets, turned them into synth and bass one-shots and loops. And those one-shots consisted of melodic motifs and some harmonic and melodic effects, as well as some fillers. And then I also created melodic top lines, some chord progressions, all that good stuff. I also made a bunch of drums just from the Foley itself through various processing techniques, specifically starting with Battery 4 and its absolutely amazing tools. From there, I went on to create the glitch effects, and I showed you guys an example of some amazing glitch plugins that I use almost on a daily basis. And of course, some processes and thought processes that I have during all of this as well. Finally, I wrapped up with showing you how to make some bonus folders and do some cool stuff within Contact. Very brief video on Contact. However, I find that just importing that stuff and just playing right away usually yields some great results. So yeah, pretty in-depth video. I hope you've enjoyed. It's been a ton of fun. Thank you so much for checking this out. And of course, a massive shout out and thank you to Black Octopus for having me on their platform. It's been an absolute pleasure. I found this video inspiring, insightful, exciting, helpful, any of that good stuff. Please reach out to me across socials at Imaginate and let me know what you think. You can grab a copy of the sample pack, which is out now on Black Octopus and Splice. My name is Danny Dignan, also known as Imaginate, and I'll see you next time. Take care.